Okay, let's see. Okay. All right. Hi everybody. You know, whatever, a little late, but hey, I mean, getting kids to bed is kind of one of those things that you can't really, put a time on. So, but I'm here for the next hour and a half. So, here to enjoy our time. Marcos, what's up? I love all the drawings that you've sent me over the years, and so definitely I'm trying to get back into my email account. I'm going to have my husband try to see if we can get back in it. And then if not, I'm going to just make a new email and let you guys know really soon, because I would love to have you send me, updates on yourself. I mean, you're just a very interesting person about how you've, been participated in so many different religions. And, I really enjoy that because, I've been around lots of different people, people's perspectives, of course. Sorry for the chaos in my house, but hey, it's great to see you. What is going on with you? Hey, what's up? Oh, congratulations on 800 subscribers, right? Something like that. I saw that, today, and I love checking out your videos from time to time. So I can't wait till you get to 1,000. And I just think that it's a really cool concept, your channel. I think let's take the 90s, for example. As we get farther away from that, people are really going to be, become more enthralled with, everything from that, because it's kind of like part of why we are fascinated by cowboys of the 1800s, because it's just, I think that's that kind of human curiosity. So it's like people are going to be like, what was it like to be goth when being goth kind of became a thing? So, I definitely think that's really neat. Um, so, oh yeah, I've been to a cemetery, posted that, and that was a lot of fun. So I'm planning to go to a different one within the next week or two. Kind of depends on how Thanksgiving stuff goes here in the States. But boy, it was a moderate sized one, and they were expanding it. And I go hiking, but to just kind of go through the whole place is like, um, really good exercise. I usually would, go in sections. So, but taking advantage of the nice weather for now. Oh, yeah, I'm in my 30s, so I'm not young, not old yet, not even really middle aged. So it was just kind of I think when we talk about adults and culture, it really is like you kind of imagine somebody in their 30s, because like somebody in their 20s is still kind of, teenish in a lot of ways, should be. And then somebody in their 40s, it's like, oh, starting to get some gray hairs, all the fun, changes to the human body. Oh, really nice. Yeah, see, I think that's wonderful that, um, let me put it this way. So somebody was saying, what would like a normal person get out of going to graveyards, cemeteries? I think it's really about the perspective. We have these ideas of different gods, demons, angels that, um, like, for example, with the demons of the Goetia, they, teach philosophy, or they are necromancy in the sense that they'll have souls who are in purgatory, give you information, right? That the idea. Um, but really, it's just that information. So even if a normal person just goes to visit, let's say like a relative, or I think that at some point in their life they'll have that moment of remembering something with them when they need it the most. So it's really insight. It's gaining an awareness that's outside of ourselves. Other people have a perspective, some kind of information that we don't know. But I do think that by acknowledging them with offerings and gifts, that even people who aren't psychic will just it could be that range. Just they'll have that moment where they're just like having a terrible day, and then they think of that time that their mom really was there, and it's just a sweet memory in that moment, and that's what they need to solve the problem, move on, become grounded again. And it's just kind of, I think most people are like, well, it's just everybody has those moments. But I mean, yeah, the spiritual world is connected to us at all times. It's just I mean, I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and they've said that, yeah, I go to visit my grandparents' grave, and then I will think more about their proverbs, their stories. And I mean, it's just that perfect way to not only connect, but also to evolve in that awareness. Oh yeah, I love the funerary art. So it's just really cool to see the different sections and stuff. I really interested. In the States we had Greek and Egyptian revivals, because America, at first when America was founded, there really wasn't much of like a national identity. So I mean, the early American presidents were really focused on how can we create this American identity, like that sense of belonging and differentness to the rest of the world. And so I mean, Thomas Jefferson, he wanted Greek to be the language of America. A lot of people, I mean, pretty much a lot of people learn about the classics. I mean, maybe not in the most modest and rural schools like that, but so that is reflected in funerary art with the columns on the mausoleums, the wreaths. It's all Greek. Yeah, really cool. And then of course Egyptian. People are always like, why would a Christian family have sphinxes flanking the sides of their mausoleum? But it's really just like, in masonry, for example, it's kind of referencing that, because they're supposed to believe in a higher power, but really it's just a reference back to before Christianity. So, and it's kind of like the dawn of mathematics. If you get into Egyptian, geometry, they, really math was heavily involved in the construction of the pyramids and stuff like that. So they, it's kind of like the dawn of rationalization, industry, civilization, in those sense. And people were just absolutely fascinated too by, I mean, those cultures, and they came together to really kind of form that identity. I mean, the Washington Monument is the tallest obelisk I believe it's in the whole world, but it could be wrong. So what is it, 555 feet? So yeah, cool. Oh, I've been going to cemetery since I was a kid too. Just I would sneak away from baseball games because there was kind of like a field, and then kind of like a hill, and so up the hill you could go to the cemetery, and I would sneak away for a little bit, and then I'd be sure to head back when I would hear everybody heading to the concession stand for snacks. I think at the time as a child, I just thought that it was just serene, beautiful. I wasn't really interested in the art, but just just the I don't know, like a feeling of belonging. I mean, now I know that one of the things that's going on is, hey, there's a lot of clean air when I mean, we're all in this pollution, but cemeteries are some of the best places to breathe some fresh air. Uh, Hermit, what's up? How are you doing? I appreciate all your comments, especially on the cemetery video. That it was just kind of definitely, you can tell it's like my first kind of foray in this channel going into that. I definitely plan to go to a different one soon, and then I'm going to go back to the other one I did, but break it maybe down into a couple of sections and just do kind of stuff that way. So different. The cemetery I'm going to go to next is pretty open recently. Like, I think it's been open like 15 years. So I don't really expect too much elaborate funerary art, but just you never know what you'll be surprised by, I would say. Yeah, so with abandoned cemeteries, so we're bringing up how there's a lot of abandoned cemeteries, and it for some people it evokes the feelings of it is abandoned, it's not taken care of, it's neglected, there's no one left alive who cares about these people, and they're going to be forgotten. um I definitely understand that feeling, because on the one hand, I definitely want people like the Masons and other people who belong to other organizations, just historical, to come document, like findagrave.com, to come document these, plots, so that we have that, here on the internet forever, and it's in our beautiful database like that. But on the other hand, you probably have seen on the stones where they're just completely, they look like spots. They could be white, blue, whatever, kind of a color, green. And that's usually called lichen. And lichen is one of the oldest organisms alive on Earth. And what it does is that it actually breaks stones, like gravestones, down to make taking, lifeless stone into fertile soil. So over, let's say 500 years from now, as that can, every time it gets wet and then it dries, that slowly chips away at the rock. So that's why, you get where you can't read the writing anymore on the grave. But that's going to feed organisms like worms. All living things need minerals. It's a huge part of and the most basic function is our immune system. Like, that's, besides doing other things, it's kind of like our own grounding system for living organisms. So other organisms can take that and consume it, because, you can't just eat a big ass chunk of stone. So it's food. And it's kind of crazy though, because it's like, it's just it's a pure death is a purifying process, and everything gets used. So eventually sediment, including any kind of casket, bodies, whatever, is going to just be eventually, go from sediment to mineral and back again. I mean, what is subjective life made out of? Minerals. So after something is a living thing is turned back into minerals, it could take, doesn't matter how much time it takes. So that's what happens. And then it uses those same materials to make and create more living things. That kind of goes into all those things. So yeah, I want all that recorded, and I really get that feeling. In fact, I've helped clean some veterans' graves when my friends have had those. They're like official grave cleaning kits for veterans, because I guess you can only do it that way with these approved, kits. And like that's been a real honor for me to be able to help with that. So it's kind of like, yes, but at the same time, abandoned cemeteries are not forgotten. I really believe in my intuition, and that not everything created will never be forgotten. The earth is our mom, and so when it's getting taken back over by nature, the lungs and things that are overgrown are the digestive system of the earth. They're just being purified, and no one's ever forgotten. Nothing is ever forgotten. We're all an extension of the nervous system of the divine, of if you want to call it, God consciousness. Energy has consciousness, but the earth certainly has consciousness, and this is this system. And yeah, I'm not, I think it is really interesting to look at the Bible, like when we talk about those kinds of things. I only say that because I got really interested as I got older about the way that my dad would tell me stories about my, things that my great great grandma, who I have a lot of proof that I'm a reincarnation of, would say. And ashes to ashes and dust to dust was one of them. And she wasn't like a church going, Jesus talking person. And I found that really interesting. And so I'm also interested in the environment and stuff like that. So ashes to ashes, dust to dust is pretty literal, So it's building things up and breaking them down. And when our bodies are beyond repair, they get broken down by death, and we become purified to, become a subjective experience again. So yeah, the nervous system. At the time of the Bible, people would only see a couple, maybe a few colors. Now we see hundreds. So our visual system's evolving, and every sense is evolving. So I just think that it's kind of what, it's like the gods, the idea that gods, the ghosts, they don't have a body. So, divinity comes here to accomplish that, to live and to die, because it's important. There would be no life without death, of course. Just went on a little rant, but hey, you know what? You guys have some interesting stuff to say. But so yeah, I totally know what you mean and feel. So at the same time, I'm always really excited to see the process of nature purifying things, back to the basics. Oh yeah, hermit. Yeah, it looks like bird shit almost. Yeah, it does kind of look like bird shit. There's other moss and stuff that will grow on graves. Lichen is a fungus and an algae, so it's both of those things, and the relationship benefits both of them. So yeah, but that's what it's doing. It's just breaking it down, and it depends on it. So like, when you go to cemeteries and you see the wrought iron fences, they don't have, stuff growing on them because they're pure iron, just like the core of the earth. So, there's nothing that is gonna, be able to break that down, like in that same way. So, but other ones like cast iron, those become discolored bronze. It's an alloy, so that's copper and like tin usually, kind of like the Statue of Liberty is copper and tin. So it's just an alloy is like mixing of a metal with another, something else. So yeah, those things kind of become tarnished, and you can get different, chemicals to clean those things. But that's also just that breaking down and stuff. But pure iron, that protects spirits. Yeah, absolutely. So I just think it's beautiful that, to me, there is no coincidences about how people used to, it's like people set up a graveyard with those fences, and people just think, oh boy, that's just, you know, creepy, or why can't it just be a wooden fence? But in our simplicity a few hundred years ago, we didn't question things, we just knew and set that kind of stuff up. So I like that kind of excitement. But I'm just always seeing whatever. Check my phone real quick. Yeah. So I mean, well, there's damage. So like when I went to the cemetery recently, they definitely had like a system to water it all. The cemetery, but um, there you could just tell maybe like some recent winds had knocked some sections, so it'd be like a row, and there'd be like 5 or 6 of graves with offerings knocked off, and I just pick them up and upright them. I mean, unless it's like somewhere where I really can't tell what grave is supposed to go to, then I might set it against a wall or a fence. But I'll just upright it. I mean, um, I treat and talk to the dead with respect, and in most ways as if they're alive, because well, that's just, I guess, part of having manners, and and extending it to this approach here. The one I went to, it wasn't recently. They had, it was like you go through the gate, like giant waterfall, and then wrought iron. So that was really great. But then, it goes back a different, like in the different sections. So you have plots and then sections. Then it was like the actual funeral home kind of office. But then they're like expanding it to make it double that size. So they were like clearing the land while I was there. And then they were also, though, planting trees, and some of them had already started to grow on like the sort of outskirts of it. So they're just like expanding it back. But it was really well taken care of. And, there were people there attending to the cemetery, and you don't always see that. I mean, some people don't give a fuck about the dead. They just are in there for the paycheck, and that's highly unfortunate. But I also, it warms my heart to see when people care like that. I enjoy that. Yeah. So let's see. I've always thought souls live in a new body after death, just like the body self goes back to nature. That's Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. Why souls can be old. Um, I think it's kind of this. I've had people say, my daughter passed away, was stillborn or died shortly after birth. So then, but they say, hey, I've gone, so I go to the cemetery to visit my, deceased infant, and um, they'll either have an experience, maybe like a little kid, they feel like a kid's holding their hand, or they just have really vivid dreams, but it's like the kid is like, let's say 5 years old. So, but the child died as an infant. I think that can kind of, and I've heard about that a lot with people through the years. I think that's just that infant is just kind of taking on a body from a previous life, because this one incarnation where they're stillborn is just not the only body they had. So they kind of revert back to those other lifetimes. But at the same time, because souls reincarnate in families a lot, you are going to get, like, they look similar. So the person, like, whose newborn died, and now they, see them as if they're 5 years old, is just really kind of a part of that kind of idea. Just take, but they're able to recognize them right away, because it's like, like they've probably been in the family, and, we have similar features with genetics. I mean, that kind of stuff. So, cool stuff to think about. But that is one that I, especially like, through the years, I thought about like, it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, different bodies after death. I mean, we all have an astral body. So when you daydream and when you dream, that's, a body that you have right now that isn't physical, that is still a version of you. And it does, I mean, most of the time, people's astral bodies look very, very similar to the way they physically look. It might look like it's in different clothes, or might look a little healthier or sick, but there's a similarity. So, but there's always a few differences, but it's just kind of like, you know, um, when I kind of tap into people, sometimes I can see what they look like in their, most recent past life, because I feel like when people do daydream or they're vulnerable and emotional, their astral body will look that way. Um, so I can kind of see a lot of that going on with people. Like I could just look at a group of people and see their astral versions next to them. And, it kind of depends. So yeah, I mean, I choose to oftentimes look like I did in my last life when I go to the astral plane. Let's say I want to channel an individual, their energy. Um, I just will instinctively, sorry guys, instinctively kind of know what would be the best, like way to appear, and I'll just maybe look more simpler, I would say. So it's interesting. I think maybe that's part of why, like sometimes spirits will be speaking on the astral plane and see me in that way. They think that I'm deceased as well. Sometimes, not always, and sometimes I choose to appear this way, as like the way I am now. But I think that's my awareness of my astral body. Just kind of, to them, they're like, oh yes, you're aware that you're, you like that you can do this, so you're dead. So yeah, it's definitely because they have their usual. I mean, if I could like make broad generalization, they kind of have their normal chit chat. They talk about a range of subjects, but a lot of them will say, "I'm dead," "You're dead," "Am I dreaming?" "I can't wake up." Those kinds of things. But they'll, somebody will come along. Like if it's in a cemetery, then there's a lot of spirits. They'll try to explain to another spirit, "You're dead," like, and then that, conversation will go on like that. But it's kind of like, they'll be like, "Watch me," and then they, will materialize as a shape or a shadow in the trees and move, because they're just like, hey, somebody's, here to watch me do that kind of stuff. So yeah, I enjoy their quirky company and their kind of games, because it's kind of fun to be able to just tap into what they're doing and just kind of have an understanding of it. Yeah, so yeah, acid rain. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, chemical weathering and just in general, the process of breaking things down. I mean, whether it's decomposition or we're talking about like, how volcanoes erode over, years, and it just be, uh, kind of out here, where not too far where I live, one of my favorite places is Superstition Mountains, and it was, 5 underground volcanoes, and erupted and came up above the ground, and they used to be like, very, very high, like towering in the sky, like kind of like, Lord of the Rings kind of looking mountains, where it's just, they're just wearing down. But that's what the elements do, though. The elements, like in my the way I would explain it is that spirits are part of the elements like air, earth, because they are being, purified. So the body and the soul, as you say, like the spirit, those processes are a little bit different. So physically, everything gets turned back into minerals. The ego or the consciousness, which it's just electricity, because that's what our thoughts are. Thoughts, ideas are all actually these sort of tangible things that are on the astral plane. And that's why I say that wrought iron fences protect ghosts, because the Earth's magnetic energy shift, and when the magnetic pole is not as strong, like on the full moon, they will rise from their grave and try to wander out of the cemetery. They're just fucking wandering, the town, the streets. But if there's iron, they can't leave, because iron takes electricity and grounds it. So, and that's good for them. Because there's a range again, but if we're talking about the idea of hungry ghosts, or they're just wandering like on a full moon, they're probably confused. They might not know they're dead. They might be very sick, injured. And them just out there wandering around isn't really the best thing for them. It takes them longer to be purified. So I think that when we see many examples of cement slabs, or even iron cages over graves, it's not so much to keep people out as it really is to keep the spirit in while that process happens. Other factors can go into that as well, but the soul should be in the ground as much as possible. But that's kind of a big part of ghosts, and the concept of hungry spirits, that they're just out there, and so, but like as the night goes on, there's just kind of this instinctual pull, like humans. Okay, little kids and dogs, like my fucking dog behind me. What do they do when they don't feel good? They lay on the ground. Kids throw a fit. Dogs lay on the ground. And yes, they like the sunshine, but they're getting electrons. So they just kind of instinctually want to go back into their bodies in the earth. So, as it becomes almost dawn, they go back to where they're interred. And then they, it's kind of like there's not ghosts that are like 1,000,000 years old. There's ghosts that are maybe a few hundred years old, and that's not many, and that depends on the circumstances. But, that's why over time that the ghost or the soul of a person, moves on, like if you want to call it that. Moves on means like a higher frequency, because that's what the astral plane is. That's what the highest form of energy, that's the light that they talk about. But, it's just cool to think about. What else? Yeah, people will say that, I've gotten spirits telling me that it's hot where they are. And I told them, well, yeah, most of the time they're under the ground, and they can experience feeling either hot or cold depending on the temperature of the earth. So like, it's gonna be okay. Nothing goes, to hell forever or something like that. There is a purification. There is accountability for sure, but it's ultimately purification. So, yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's really sad too. Like with the, um, I hate seeing where they take a cemetery and they disinter the remains, and place them in, let's say, a new cemetery, because maybe not so much today, but you definitely know that back in the day there wasn't a lot of like actually taking a lot of remains, and if they did, they probably were desecrated, like jewelry stone, because at least here in the States, a lot of the times they would hire alcoholic Native Americans and Hispanics and other people like that who were definitely gonna, go, take what they can. I mean, they're the dregs of society, just trying to, addicts trying to get by. And so, I don't think that a lot of like real care went into that. But and it's, I mean, I'm just glad it doesn't happen so much. But I I love the cemeteries because they really are, um like we talk about resting, it is this period of time where the soul, um basically what happens when we sleep, when we, when we're dreaming or when we die, we heal. We need to rest. And that's what I want, to be seeing happen for the deceased. So I just like when cemeteries are respected, whatever that looks like. Um, so yeah, what else would you guys like to talk about? The Yeah, you know what? Do you guys have a lot in Sweden? Do you guys have like a lot of monuments, like funerary art? I mean, I know that basically Greece is all over the world and they're angels. The only reason that we have angels that look the way they do, we're talking about like angels with wings, is because of the Greeks. And the earliest form of Buddha in a human, incarnation is a um, I mean, it looks like a lot like an angel. So it's, when the Greeks encountered Buddhism, it's, of course, they were very interested in it. So they wanted to portray Buddha. And of course, if it's Greek, they're going to make statues. Yeah, you know what? It really depends. Okay, so like here in the States, I have seen, like we're talking about, like, with upkeep. I have seen some like really overgrown ones where is like where it says, slave cemetery and state land kind of idea, but like you can't even see, you know headstones at all. It's not, I mean, like they're there, but the ivy and the earth is just completely overgrown that, and no one has come to fix it, or of course, or document that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like that's where I'm like, oh, because if it's that overgrown, there's not like find a grave, you know, um, entries for these people, so we know they, their name and the dates they existed, and yeah, but I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, some of the stuff that really sucks is like when people when like the few cemetery workers will um just take and throw away the grave offerings like way too often. I understand in a way that they have to throw either some stuff away that's like kind of seasonal or not best for the environment or in the way. I totally get that. But just they'll come with the garbage bag, throw all of it away. And I'm just like, it upsets the dead, for sure. But it's just kind of that, the idea is, the spirits really understand your intentions. So yeah, uh, you're like, well, I took this job because I don't care, you know stuff like that. What do they do about those people? A lot of times they will follow them home and you know basically orchestrate their dreams, that kind of idea. But oh yeah, in an astral mirror. Yeah, that's really cool. I love scrying, and we'll kind of go over some. I don't know. It'd be cool to kind of show my presentation of scrying. Just kind of never really have exactly gone into that in too much detail. But Yeah, hermit. It's funny. You always kind of really understand what, or have a relatable experience. So you're definitely like, it's like one of my best friends for sure through this channel. But in the sense of like, just when you have an experience and you just talk to somebody, they can either relate or they're just going to be able to, kind of further open your eyes in some way. And it's just like you're just like an old friend, like come in for tea and that kind of a feeling. I actually can't wait. So we will go to the cemetery where I think it's like 30 British Royal Air Force pilots are interred because it was during World War II. So they just interred them here in the States. I mean, they did, funerals for them with honors and stuff. And I definitely am going to take those gentlemen some tea and cookies. And I'm just really looking forward to that because I know they have their own section. Yeah, see, so you're saying we're talking about like you almost die, near death experience, but you don't see a light. Yeah, it really, there's not like a standard experience or that, hey, I almost died and I didn't see a light, so nothing exists. It kind of depends, of course, on your like frame of mind stuff in that moment. But really, light can just be a feeling. Like energy can just be a feeling. It's kind of like why it kind of goes back to if there's a ghost, you as a human will see it out of the corner of your eye as shadows and mist because humans have better eyesight than dogs. So as a ghost, is manifesting, your eyes can pick that up, and that's just that manifesting. But your animals, they are hearing that manifest, so they're not seeing it. They're hearing that noise, and to them it's usually very high pitched. You know how animals will, they hone in, like they look at something when there really is a ghost. It's more like they're focused on the noise. So that's just the interpretation that the senses of that species is having. And so if you don't see a light, you feel it. It's just a different way of perceiving that. That it's just interesting. I think that's also why we talk about like ghosts. One of the biggest ones that's just kind of out there is that people say that they see a lot of roadside ghosts. I mean, there's a lot of pretty convincing footage out there if you like to kind of look in that stuff. But for me, I think the reason is that we're traveling in a vehicle. Humans are traveling in a vehicle and they're moving faster, so they can actually, the faster you travel, the more that you can see. So, that spirit, the ghost, there's ghosts all around us. It's just you're, in that situation, a person's ability to see that is increased because of speed. So that's the best way I can really put that. And yeah, I can kind of tap into it to make it more complete, let's say. So, like sound manifestation, footsteps. People will say, oh, I hear walking up and down the stairs. And when we do actually hear the noise, I can, see that as well. So yeah, it's just, just kind of thoughts about like the senses. Valiant Thor, of course, I love everything pagan. It's like if I was back then, we like traveled to all these different countries. What's the name of your god? Okay, let's build a statue for them. And I mean, I absolutely do. I mean, I could never learn. I could never just honor all the gods that are out there in my lifetime. But I like to find a deity and spend some time forming a relationship, and you know that's I really enjoy the company of the gods as well. And yes, so as far as being careful, I do take a good amount of protective and even physical steps. Like when I leave uh, after I'm done at a cemetery, I will take my shoes and just wipe them down, and then put the wipes in a bag, and dispose of that like kind of elsewhere on the way home, and garbage can somewhere, so that I'm not going to bring the the earth from the cemetery back with me. So just I think that following some basic stuff, whatever you want to do. I can't like publish some basic or some exact rules that are going to work for everybody, but I just find that respect, and then just doing some some spiritual, and then a couple physical things. I mean, to separate yourself from that will definitely help. You have a blessed night too. I definitely hope all of you are doing well. Yeah, well, I mean, things are definitely difficult to explain. It's kind of like ideas I've I try to articulate with you guys. Some of them I am just at the very edge of understanding. It's and that will, I'll think about something, and I'll think, why, over and over again until I eventually can put more of that understanding together. But other things, I believe there are some things I understand so completely that I can explain it to you simply, because if you truly understand something, you can probably put it together pretty simply. And I just want to put that out there for whoever is supposed to hear it. It's the best way to put that. Well, nice. From a lab. Oh, I definitely, one of my interests is like mad scientists, just maybe prolific geniuses, if you will. I think there's even madscientist.com, and you can go on there. And Robert Cornish, he's just a real fascination for me. He euthanized some dogs, but he brought two of them back to life um, through ejecting adrenaline and anticoagulants, so blood thinners, and then moving the body back and forth on a board, and to get the circulatory system going again. And then they were as pets for many years, and were normal. They did end up they did end up recovering. So at first it was kind of like muscles were kind of stiff, and they weren't super fast and responsive, but they did heal. And I think that is important to understanding, medicine and the muscles and how we heal. I mean, he got ousted. Um, Basically, he wanted to have inmates they were going to execute, access to them. And the government was like, of course, they're like, fuck no. I mean, can't be tried twice for the same thing. So, like, if this guy resurrects this person, then then they're free. And I mean, they had reason to believe that, he's successful doing that. So it was like, okay. But he spent the rest of his life kind of in seclusion, but he did write a book about vitamins and minerals. I mean, one of the, first kinds of writings of that kind, focusing on the, purposes and, um, you know, of course we all understand how that's important to us. So he just, fascinating. Yeah. I just have, I guess the best way to explain it is, a little Aspergery, autistic. So when I like something, I will be able to like focus on it pretty good. Yeah, I know. I do love that whole British aspect of having tea and just taking time out. I think it was pretty popular in America. I mean, but we're talking 17, 1800s now. You know, no one. I don't think people take the time out unless they go out of their way to do that. And uh, this tea is full of antioxidants, so I'm drinking it. I'm drinking apple cider vinegar right now. Oh, let's see. So my friend, you don't know how to actually pronounce your YouTube name. San is. So I hope I'm pretty close. San is. Uh, you know, yeah. Children seem more open to the paranormal. They are right. So she says, I've seen and heard ghosts, and children seem more open to it before the grown-up world tells them it isn't real. Sad when people lose that gift that way. Still have many still have my ghost meetings. Yeah, oh, I mean, I never stop believing, and that's why I'm here. So, doing this, but um, children are part of it is that children are very instinctual. So, I mean, I have children, so despite all their temper tantrums and all the range of stuff they do, they're just very intuitive and stuff. Like I mentioned, when they don't feel good, they throw themselves on the ground. So their senses are just so open, and they're kind of stronger. Part of that is that they're just not as full as toxins like we all kind of are as adults. But I mean, um, it, you know, they see and experience a range of things. Um, they have just come from being created by divinity incarnate, the earth, in all of its materials. So they have that, they're very connected to that higher frequency. All humans are still, they're in the astral plane as well, but um but like children just don't have that kind of questioning, and uh they're really more on that high vibration. It depends. I mean, there are children who are like, but in those situations they're pretty tainted by abuse and similar types of things. So yeah, I mean that as far as me personally, I people will tell me, why would you want to be interested in the occult? Like what happened in your life to kind of get you interested in this? And I'm just like, well, in my case, I don't know any other existence. Like I have been seeing ghosts since I was in a crib, and I just wanted to look for answers. I mean, I'm an avid reader anyway, but look for answers about that. And then at the same time, like, it became kind of important as time went on to learn how to protect myself. um, and that's really, I mean, that's really it for me. I mean, it took me a long time to realize, like, I was probably a young teenager before I realized that not everybody was having those experiences. And today, I usually could just pick up information, and in more like in my third eye, in my mind. It's how I do my psychic stuff. But uh, you know, as a kid, it was physical manifestations. And so there's obviously some quality kind of about me, but yeah, I don't know what your all those previous messages were, Thor, but it kind of retracts whatever. Sun is. Okay. That's cool. Well, thank you for enlightening me. I appreciate that. I love the sun. As above, so below. So we're going to get vitamin D from the sun. And then we get electrons, which are also from the sun. Well, manifestations of the sun, like lightning strikes, for example, that, gives the earth more electrons. And so we're getting, sun from above and electrons from below. So, it's cool to think about how that kind of translates. Yeah, your interests have already been there, like your interest in the paranormal. Yeah, it follows your soul. um, yeah, I would say that. Uh, so in my last life, I lived to be almost 100. So 95. And I've heard people say, oh, there's this there's this old couple in their 80s, whatever, and the wife passes away, and they say, wow, the poor husband, he should have just passed away with her. He just must be so lonely and miserable. And to me, I'm just like, that is, I mean, there's a range of experiences, but like that's just not normal, and it's it shouldn't be that way. And it definitely wasn't true for me. Um, that that I found life meaningless and wanted to just die. I mean, I enjoyed simplicity that I always strive to, in many ways, recreate and go back to. That's how I know that I'm grounded. But I had, my marbles. I did love reading, so I, read a lot of books, and I spent a lot of time talking with spirits of different varieties as well. And I cried, I cried all the time, but I was also so happy because I was, grounded, and no air conditioning, no TVs. That was, I have access to my memories and my feelings, and rather than being a crazy old bugger, I mean, that was, keeping me going because, of course, our devices are giving off static electricity. And so, I'm like, hey, you had some, good, things that you thought back then. But yeah, so I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I had 3 sons, and uh, they all passed before me, and I had 2 husbands that, I outlived them. I outlived my parents. I outlived my kids. And I definitely wasn't like miserable and just, okay, well, with each person who died on me that I like, oh my gosh, my life is over. Um, I got up every day and did the basics to make sure that things got, daily tasks got done. And that in itself was soul nourishing, replenishing, and just the thought like that it just didn't occur to me. I just definitely didn't feel that way. I did miss everyone that I lost, but in order to miss them, I still needed to be here and carry on. And so I say, hey, I still miss them, because I'm kind of one of a few who can, who has this kind of experience. But man, there's, talking to ghosts. I've been doing that, for I guess a few lifetimes at least. Yeah, it just kind of seems like, oh yeah, that's my little dog. I love him. So I didn't pick this interest specifically, at least not in this lifetime. So we're gonna go with this lifetime, and that's my honest experience. And I mean, a lot goes into that. Kids experiencing the paranormal is a whole, kind of complex subject in that sense that um, when children are experiencing the paranormal, they're experiencing ghosts. Ghosts don't filter things. So because they have, some kind of unfinished business usually, um, unless that unfinished business is to protect, like they're like that, the guide of that person, then they're needing help and they're going to, go to this child because they're the only one who can, hear them or see them for whatever. And they might be bleeding, stinky, dead. So, I mean, there's a lot of ghosts that look alive, like, let's say, like just a person walking down the street and, they might have died a horrific death, but, you're just seeing them in that way. But a lot of the times, because of that either unfinished business or confusion, that's that manifestation of that. So they manifest their death. And it's so, it's like, yeah, little kids who see ghosts are seeing some stuff that unfortunately little kids shouldn't be seeing and experiencing. But I mean, when I say shouldn't, it's like the main thing would be that they'd have that support, because then they'll be able to naturally learn to protect their energy and integrate these experiences. But that is definitely a potential thing to consider when we talk about children and the paranormal. Any changes during thunderstorms with paranormal experiences? They can be stronger with the electricity in the air. Yeah, I mean, that's a classic, Western idea of haunting and ghosts. That, it's like you could feel the energy in the air, and we talk about ghosts manifesting it more so. And yeah, when I was a kid and I was having, my house was haunted during thunderstorms, usually before, then we would have banging, objects moving, doors opening, closing. Those kinds of things would increase. So it's just like what you say. There is energy in the air. So, um, because lightning happens so fast, it's benefiting the earth by putting electrons into it. But as far as just in the air, it's just giving off energy. So the negative ions are generated, but they're not grounded like the actual electricity. So I think, so the best way to put it is that, we talk about how the idea that ghosts can't cross running water. But then people say, well, why are bathrooms haunted so much? Or that, just be quiet for a minute, see if they go back to bed. But yeah, so why would a bathroom be haunted? There's water and toilets, the sink, the shower, right? So they're there everywhere, but they can't cross running water out in nature. That's because running water is grounding. But in a house, because your house is insulated from the earth. So when you go, whether you are in the shower or the ghost turns the water faucet on. That's just generating energy that is, put off into the air, and then they're going to be able to use that to manifest or manipulate, the physical plane in some way. So, yeah, that's basically why, because it's kind of like with showers. I mean, it makes, living people feel better because it puts us into, our nervous system is relaxed into a parasympathetic, digestive state that, so your body's not putting out adrenaline. And when that happens, you can process information and your thoughts become more clear, like in water, which is clear. So you're able to think, and it releases those relaxing hormones, but it's just putting off that energy into the air. So when ghosts do have the ability to manipulate their environment, they, you will find that they like to manipulate water sources. The water and electricity sources, and that's their electricity that they need to get basically more energy. And so there's just those variety of reasons. But yeah, where did I put that? Found it. So yeah, cool, really cool thoughts, and I really enjoyed your company. We'll do one again, maybe, I don't know, a week or two before Christmas. Yeah, so I do think that's, with storms, there's just such an increased, energy in the air that they're just, ghosts are able to use that. And, that's why we get those manifestations. They are air. If we get really, if we could, with ghosts, say what exact element they are air. That's why we get ghosts in the trees, because there's just that weightless quality to them. Even when they, when you hear footsteps with the paranormal, it's that they're, manifesting that energy that they probably got like from there. So, you're hearing the footsteps, but really they're there the whole time. It's just that now you can, experience that with your senses. So ghosts are in my experience really in a lot of places. It's kind of like people, with people who are having really terrible problems with the paranormal, like being scratched and terrorized and stuff, because the ghost is going after in a lot of cultures, we talk about we'll talk about dreaming and why do ghosts, bother people in their sleep. Our bodies are just our bodies when we're sleeping, and we go to the astral plane when we dream. So it's just a body that's unoccupied that where we give off enough electricity to power a light bulb. So they're just attracted. They don't, it's not like they normally see us so much, but they're just attracted to like human bodies as a source of energy. But people are like, well, when people who are like Christians who are, they want to get rid of ghosts, they put crosses above the different, doorways and stuff. I always tell people, well, it's not about the religious symbol. It's about if it's, metal, like it's the same idea as iron. But if you do that, then spirits of all kinds, like, guardian angels, your loved ones who are protecting you, other spirits who are just kind of, passing through and, offering you random insight, they can't reach you either, because that grounds all. And so, I would, that's why, like, if it's really extreme and we've got to, really help somebody, then yeah. But, the goal is to be able to return to, kind of like a state of not having that, because we do want normal spiritual influences to be kind of able to come and go, just like they are in everyday life, but people don't really pay attention to them or sense them or, notice it in that way. But yeah, ghosts are electricity. Just like us, we're electricity unless we are grounded to the earth, and then that idea. So it's okay. I gotta leave soon too, so I gotta go, do some stuff. But hey, I really appreciate you, chatting with me. I'll be catching up on your content, and hey, maybe I'll see you, next month. I'll definitely announce it. And you're just such a sweetheart, and thanks for the friendship. I mean, definitely, I feel like we're definitely friends. So have a really nice day, and enjoy those cemetery visits for me, because I'll do the same for you. But yeah, as far as anybody else who's still here, I'll probably stay on like 20 more minutes and then get going. I've been on, what does it say? An hour and 11 minutes. Yeah, I'm sorry if I ramble and stuff, guys. I'm excited. Then I also try to, really just like think about it and explain it. But yeah, hopefully some of the stuff I say makes sense to you guys and can help you in some way. Or I tell people too, people say like, oh, if I'm Christian, because I do have a few friends who are Christian, but I put people first in the way they treat me. I care about you as a person, not what you believe. Take my template, with the protective properties of iron, and put your crosses up and protect yourself. It's your life. Take my information and apply it to your life, so that you can heal. Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Otherwise, I'll just maybe smoke a couple bowls and then I'll head out. What can I talk about in the meantime? Yeah, storms are interesting. The whole idea of ghosts in the Western culture is really interesting. I remember having a conversation with my husband, not whatever, at some point, and he said, "Ghosts don't, well, he's very, like, how can I put it? He's not very interested." So he said, "Ghosts don't really, rise from their grave. Why would a cemetery be haunted? They live their lives in their homes. Why would a cemetery be haunted?" But a lot of that has to do with how we're attached to our bodies right now. We're physical beings with our souls that are with us most of the time. So because the body is being broken down by the earth, the soul just gets, naturally attracted to be by that, because the physical process of decomposition that is purifying is also purifying the soul. And so they do, I mean, they're by their bodies, and I mean, I don't know, like that's, you go to cemeteries, you probably will have an experience. And that's because the cemeteries are filled with spirits. Yes. They can certainly be in homes. They can certainly just be, wandering down a street because they're just, you know, lost or hungry, basically looking for energy. But that idea, the cultural idea of ghosts rising from the grave, cemeteries being haunted, with the idea with the vampires, with silver, pure metals conduct electricity and are purifying. And that's the same idea with water. Running water generates negative ions. So that takes like pollutants out of the air. And it gives the air an energetic, pure, you can feel it. It's like why when you go out and you take a walk and stuff and you just feel like, oh, I can really breathe better, because you're breathing in air. It's like why you're attracted probably by the air that's by a waterfall, because it's literally more pure. And so one of the other interesting things, like for example with my children, they ew, it smells like we're walking by a house and, oh, it smells like horse poop. Um, so we whatever. Later in the day, we're home and okay, I'm hungry with something to eat. You know how it goes. And they say, well, I just I can't eat because I still smell the horse poop. It's interesting because that's actually true. Histamine, which is a neurotransmitter, the neurotransmitter of the immune system, when we're breathing in air pollutants, that triggers histamines, and that traps allergens of smells in our noses for these longer periods of time. So the smells that we like as our modern experience, you might smell something disgusting in the morning and then still smell it even after a shower or, you know, at night. I mean, usually a shower will open the sinuses, but really, back in the so it was a little different. It's kind of one of the things I treasure about remembering my last life is that I went in just to the bathroom, yeah, outside. But even I remember the experience of going to the bathroom in like outhouses, and it smelled in the moment, but then right away you just didn't stink anymore because without all that air pollution, people back in the 17, 1800, before cars and noise pollution, I mean, all, everything that we have, our modern problems, they would smell something and then they didn't stick in their nose. So then they move on, the body literally moves on to the next smell, the next experience. So it's true. I mean, you smell something gross today and it really lingers in your nose. So, and then, histamine degradation kind of depends on genetics and all these other things. But yeah, back in the day, no, people were pooping in outhouses and, smelling their horse shit right next to their house. But they didn't live in a filthy, like, experience of just smelling disgusting stuff. Because they just had the brief disgusting experience and then they just moved on. So it is interesting. Still can't be like, yes, kids, I'm validating your point in my own way. I will, like I understand what they're saying. And so I'll say, well, let's spray your nose out with some salt water because that's going to get a lot, irritants out of the nose. That's why, it's kind of like showering. So that's why it's just one of the things that's different about our lives now compared to 100 years ago. Oh, okay. Well, I'm fucking beyond about 10 more minutes. So if you have something to say, let me know. I'm here. Yeah, I love hearing you guys' thoughts. And if you haven't seen whatever, I've done a recent cemetery walkthrough. You could go check that out. Some of the things I have coming up is just a few more kind of profiles of tarot cards, and do some more cemetery stuff soon, but a different one. And I really want to incorporate that like while I can. I have to do it seasonal, so definitely will be like mindful so I can make that kind of stuff happen. But hey, just, let me know what you guys want to see more of, or, you have questions of. Speculation is really the lifeblood of conversation here. So, um, it's kind of cool to just kind of have you guys talk, ask me questions, and then um, I'd say just because of my experience, be able to, you know, investigate it with you guys. Otherwise, yeah, I'm just smoking my pipe, and I'll just go relax pretty soon here. Yeah, the cemetery. Well, I'm gonna do a follow up on that. Definitely, some different encounters. It's kind of like going to like a social event, meeting new people. Same kind of idea. But oh yeah, I guess that's kind of interesting. So I'm gonna be able to take one of my friends with sometimes. My husband has a friend who's really interested in this kind of stuff, and I think it would be a lot of fun. If not, really the main thing would be I can't wait to like expand his horizons, with funerary art, and just that's always a fun way to just kind of get people thinking. Um, yeah, so I plan to definitely do that, and kind of see um, what I enjoy what people's thoughts are. Well, anybody have anything to ask? Like I said, ask it now. Otherwise, I'll just smoke a bowl or something for a minute here, and then I will go back to my life. What else was I thinking about that was super interesting? Oh yeah, um, with the with the Egyptian revival, it's kind of like two periods. When Napoleon, did the Egyptian campaign, 1798 to 1801, I believe. That really brought like a whole interest in this at that time. And because in the South in America, in places like New Orleans, there's just such a concentration of French, there was a lot of, early Egyptian revival, funerary art, because, you just have a high population of French in that area. And then, later kind of expanded to like New England, because rich people were looking for art. And, but I mean, the whole culture as well, and the whole, their ideas and experience. But then that kind of, there was that for a while. And then later in 1924, Time Magazine published their first in color issue. And it was of King Tutankhamun, and Howard Carter's findings and pictures. And people were standing at the time. People were standing in line to get a copy, and they were running out. And the next morning, it's kind of like waiting in line to go see like that Star Wars movie or something in the 70s. And that really brought that about. So in the 1920s and 30s, there was like a second Egyptian revival. And so that's why the Dodge family of, we're talking about cars, vehicles, um, they have a mausoleum that it has, flanked by the sphinxes. Um, just Egyptian revival. But back then, because and then everybody was super interested in it by then. But with Napoleon, though, one of the really fascinating ideas is that at that time the Rosetta Stone was discovered, and it was written in uh, ancient Greek, or Greek, and then hieroglyphs. And so he was able to decipher that. People knew about Egypt before the Egyptian campaign, but people didn't. There was no way to read hieroglyphs. The last living person who read hieroglyphs probably passed away in the early centuries of the AD here. So people were like, oh, I wonder if it says this, but it's just all like a guess. But then we have, with Napoleon, we have translation and understanding, and so people were just like, of course, understandably fascinated. So yeah, one of those things about back then too is like people were super interested in reading other cultures, and it was kind of like the social media in a way. It wasn't like, I guess what I'm saying is like people weren't just on the farm or whatever, and they didn't have any thoughts, imaginations, or dreams beyond their life. Like they didn't just have the farm. They they were very tied to that present moment for literal reasons, but then they also were able to imbibe in very imaginative and dramatic ideas. And so, we're still fascinated by ancient Egypt today. So, it's not going to go away, but absolutely splendid, fascinating. I love all the different, like the different, basically, fraternal kinds of organizations, symbols like the Masons and the double-headed eagle, for the ancient accepted Scottish Freemasons, the Order of the Eastern Star. So all those kinds of symbolisms are pretty fascinating. And then just the materials, like I do like seeing lichen because purification is happening. But then at the same time, I love the obelisks, and So yeah, as far as with grave coverings and stuff, it just helps keep spirits where they're supposed to be. So I guess if you really want to get really literal, you're interested in the paranormal, I'll leave you with this thought. In cemeteries, so people say like, oh, were you cremated? In India, they just dump it in the river, and that really makes for rapid reincarnation. But when we talk about like people being interred above the ground or in columbariums, eventually that's all going to go back under the ground too. That's just going to take a lot longer because human intervention. We maintain our parking lot spaces, our buildings. But if all humans were just gone, whatever. The earth would just slowly consume all traces of us except for in sediment. So eventually those people will also be purified by the same mechanism, but they're going to be, it takes longer. They can, whatever other things can help them move on. But like columbariums and mausoleums generally are more haunted than remains that are interred in the ground. You get more activity because they're it kind of some exceptions are mausoleums that are made of iron or other metals that are just basically doing the same thing. They're protecting the dead by conducting that any kind of ghost electrical aspect into the ground. So that's kind of an exception. But I mean, generally it's like, yeah, try it. I mean, see what you think if you're a paranormal explorer. I mean, I've always, been interested more in what people kind of have to say about that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just a cool thought. But hey, I'm going to leave you guys with that. And let's do another live stream in December. I will talk to you guys later. So thanks for hanging out with me. Happy whatever you're celebrating out there. And I'll talk to you guys later.